Councilmember Flowey,
Here.
Councilmember Kangas,
Here.
Councilmember Deeds, Councilmember Ganabate,
Present.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Plummer.
Here.
All right, number 4, entertain a motion for approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right. John, Dave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Number 5, public comment. 3-minute public comment. Please stand at the podium, state your name, and 3 minutes is yours. Do I have anyone for public comment? Last call on public comment. Seeing none. Moving on, number 6, unfinished business. Seeing none. Number 7, new business. 7.1, bond council proposal for ice arena improvements. There's no background, so Nate, I'll hand this on to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this evening, I'm gonna turn Andy on here. Okay, so we have you on, but I'm gonna talk for a bit, and we'll turn it over to you when we're ready for you, okay? Okay. Very good. All right, so tonight we had planned to have bond counsel here as well. Unfortunately, our technology is not working, and the gentleman that typically runs that for us is not here this evening. He is out ill. So what we're going to do is we have our engineer here from last time, Matt Trado. He will give a little synopsis again of what we've been talking about concerning the ice arena, and then we'll give you a brief update. It'll be your opportunity then to ask him questions. The administration is suggesting 3 different options. The first option is to do everything as stated that Mr. Trado is providing. Option number 2 is to do a scaled down version of the options, which would be keeping the same footprint of the parking lot. He's going to give a little brief analysis of the current parking lot. Or number 3 would be to a la carte it, and you tell me what you want me to do. And that'll give the direction of the engineer, and then that way Andy will know what we're talking about, which is the financial advisor, proposed financial advisor, and then we'll give that information also to the bond counsel, which is an attorney that would be working on our behalf for facilitating the bonds. After that, we'll have you pick what you want us to do, and then Andy will say what he does, and he'll also be gracious enough to say what the bond counsel will do for us, which is Miller Canfield. And you will have to decide if you want to vote to hire Andy's firm to do the work he's proposing. The same thing with Miller Canfield. So it'll be 3 different motions altogether. Proposal of the work to make Matt do what he needs to do. The financial advisor to provide us the information we need to make good decisions concerning this issue. And the bond counsel move forward, start preparing the paperwork and getting all the language together to go to a bond proposal for the public to vote on in May. That doesn't set us in stone. We're gonna have to come back here still and do some extra work in January, but this sets the stage to start advancing this. And then I'll answer any questions you may have as well. The biggest thing is getting this to get on the May ballot is imperative, because if we do not, then we miss that opportunity, and we have to pump that to the next ballot, which I believe might be in August. So the one thing we have to keep in mind is, if we want to advance this project forward, we're on borrowed time. It's already been stated time and time again. Whatever's happened in the past, there's nothing we can do about that. We have to move on to the future and figure out how we're going to be able to keep the facility moving, keep the facility operational. And if we're able to convince the public to vote to advance this and provide funding for this, then we should be able to keep the facility operational for the next season, because we can order the equipment and we can install the equipment necessary to keep that thing going for the next season. So with that said, Mr. Mayor, entertain Mr. Trado to step up, give a quick synopsis of what's going on, talk about the parking lot a bit, and then we'll see what direction the council would like us to go for the project scope.
Good evening, everybody. This is going to be a condensed version of the presentation that we reviewed at the last meeting. Just gives you an idea of the layout of the site, ice arena, current paved parking area of 30,000 square feet and gravel parking of approximately 32,000 square feet. That's gonna be one of the primary focuses of the additional analysis that we've performed since the last board meeting. This is the inside layout of the facility and the arena again. Really, the main thing to pull away from this is our locker rooms. This is one of the areas that we have as kind of like an ad alternative or a slightly lower priority than our chiller or our dehumidification, which focuses on core infrastructure. It's the redesign and reconfiguration of these locker rooms, try to maximize the space that we do have to try to meet the requirements that we have for 4 or 5, sometimes the need of 6 different locker room facilities, depending on who's using the ice arena at any given time. Project priorities, I added numbers in here to kind of help bring the attention to the fact that the items at the beginning are the primary focus, the primary priority of these capital improvements. That's the chiller removal and replacement. That is what's making and maintaining the ice and protecting the quality of the ice. Number 2, dehumidification system. Same thing. The idea of the dehumidification system is it would extend the useful life of the ice arena over the course of the year. Would allow us to move into October, maybe even September, as opposed to what we're currently operating in. So potentially gets us an extra 1 or 2 months of use of the facility that we can't currently utilize because it's too moist in there and that damages the ice and makes the ice soft. Number 3, the locker room renovations that we discussed, trying to turn those 4 locker rooms and make them as useful as possible, maximize the space, ideally find ways to create a 5th or even 6th locker room space. 4 would be the bleacher upgrades, removing and replacing some of those bleachers that have become less than valuable and not maximizing the space. Parking lot improvements would be the full cost of like our best option, essentially, a full mill and fill removal and replacement of the parking lot pavement. And then miscellaneous is random upgrades to the bathroom fixtures, kitchen fixtures, that sort of thing, trying to improve upon some of the general items within the ice arena. Chiller replacement, the existing chiller is a 130-ton unit from the 90s. As time has gone on, this has become a larger and larger maintenance concern and cost. More recently, the Johnson Controls invoices have continued to increase, and we've had a pretty significant cost increase just here in the last year to get it up and running for our current season. Dehumidification, this is what helps protect the quality of the ice. We also have condensation issues on the beams. The beams then drip water on the ice, creates mounds of ice on the actual ice arena, and then can also result in soft ice and not make the facility usable during some of the warmer months. Locker room renovations, currently we have 4 locker rooms plus the high school locker room. We have capacity issues, we don't really have a facility for the refs, we don't have a female locker room, and so it creates a major issue with our ability to allow the people that are using the ice arena to have the appropriate facilities. Bleacher upgrades, the bleachers don't really maximize the seating. They're in bad shape. There's a lot of opportunity to improve upon those, to 1, give us room for potential additional locker room space, but 2, just create a better viewing situation for the people that are at the ice arena. Parking lot. So parking lot does need to be resurfaced. Needs to be striped to really maximize the parking lot. I did a drive-through here on my way to the meeting tonight. It's obviously covered in snow. They seem to be doing a decent job of being able to park with the snow on the parking lot, but it was probably only 10% full tonight when I was driving by. And I know that depending on the events or what has going on, that parking lot can be pretty jam-packed. And we could also expand the HMA or asphalt parking lot to include the additional 32,000 square feet of the gravel area, which would be obviously much more expensive option. And then the miscellaneous one was the new bathroom fixtures, kitchen improvements, flooring upgrades, etc. This is a picture of the parking lot. You can see that we're dealing with alligator cracking. Cracks, seal, and fill would help extend the longevity of this, but eventually plows are going to start hitting pavement. They're going to start continuing to destroy the parking lot because the parking lot is in bad shape, and we are on borrowed time. So an asphalt sealant and restriping, you know, does that buy us 5 more years before the parking lot really starts crumbling? What my biggest concern is once the plows start hitting the pavement, it then just really gets out of hand. The other option is to just crush and shape it, just turn it all to gravel. You'll have an annual maintenance cost associated with that, but crushing and shaping an existing asphalt parking lot does create a really good gravel parking lot. But it is gonna then be a gravel parking lot and become a little bit of a maintenance headache long-term. And then the best option would be to mill and fill the current 30,000 square foot asphalt, and you would have a new surface that would last 30 plus years.
Unknown participant is now joined.
So with that, I can kind of open it up to questions and see if the council wants any clarification or any additional info.
All right, let's open it up to Matt for questions that you may have, as far as our capital improvements and, what our options may or may not be.
Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yes,
just
sir.
interject just for a few moments on some of the things. Just to clarify a question for the council and the public. Matt, on the HMA surface right now, what concerns related to ADA compliance are you seeing if it were to continue and not have any type of maintenance done on the surface at all?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I know there's already some concerns as far as ADA accessibility out there. Any sort of rutting and cracking basically alleviates or removes your ADA accessibility. As it currently sits, I believe we do have an ADA compliant entrance, but as time goes on, that's gonna continue to get worse. I mean, there's already a need for removing and replacing the sidewalks are also in bad shape. That 225 does include the cost of removing and replacing the sidewalks as needed as well. But yes, there's certainly ADA implications as it continues to get worse that we're not gonna have ADA compliant access there.
Okay, and then the question related to just turning the HMA parking lot into a full gravel lot, what are the implications on ADA compliance
It's
there?
gotta meet certain criteria as far as the gravel, and of course, we would have designated spaces that would make sure that that's being accommodated, and maybe that includes a portion of it that has a concrete parking lot or a couple of concrete parking spaces that would be fully ADA compliant. That would allow us to stay within that $100,000 budget.
Alright,
But certainly your long-term maintenance costs associated with gravel, like you're bringing gravel in every year, you're regrading the whole site, it turns into a bit of a maintenance cost headache. That's not included in this cost analysis in terms of what that might be, but that is certainly something that the city staff would have to deal with long-term.
okay, so, Mr. Mayor and Council, the reason I bring those up is because we have an opportunity to take care of, we got one bite at the apple right now rather than several bites at the apple. So I'd like you to consider the parking lot situation as in terms of ADA compliance, long-term maintenance and all that. Again, the administration suggests either do all the project as stated, which is the most expensive option, or scale that back a bit and do just the current footprint, as Mr. Trado has explained. Currently, we're doing a good job of plowing the parking lot, people got access to the area that is already gravel, so maybe we don't have to go that far out. And that will at least get us 30 years out of that parking lot. Because one thing I can tell you is if we decide not to do anything, we have to put significant investment in the future, we're already seeing about $200,000. And I'm telling you, it's gonna be very, very difficult to find $200,000 to come directly out of the general fund to pay for that parking lot in the future, which we know we're already gonna have to do. In addition to that, there aren't too many grants out there that I'm even aware of that would be saying, hey, here's money to put in a parking lot. We've never seen anything like that. I'm not saying they don't exist, but it's gonna be extremely difficult to find or get somebody to agree to something that's not flashy, like a parking lot, because typically those things are just like, it's a parking lot. So, that's a consideration I think you guys need to think about when you are directing myself to carry forward on whatever this project scope will be. Again, that doesn't lock us into that overall project, do we actually go out to full bid? But when we do put in what we're asking for the money for in the vote for the folks out there, the public, we will have to be very specific on what we're asking for and what we're gonna use that money for. So, Mr. Mayor, I guess I'd entertain, the direction of the council to myself, what that scope of the project would be. And then Matt's still here for questions.
Alright, so do we want to open it with a motion, or do we wanna have a discussion?
Motion's appropriate.
Motion, entertain a motion to,
My suggestion, Mr. Mayor, would be to start from the very top and work your way down.
okay,
And take off what you don't want, so.
let's if I can entertain a motion, to propose the full project. Full bulk proposal project. What time is now?
You want to ask some questions?
Yeah. I
Well,
think
once
you
we,
can.
once we get through the motions, then we'll
Okay.
talk about the.
I'll make the motion for the full enchilada, here, so for the purpose of discussion.
I'll second.
I'll second it, just like John.
All right, John, then, the floor is yours.
I mean, a couple of things, I guess, the thing that occurs to me, I know that, you know, we've all seen some communications here in the last couple of days regarding this and that question of whether we should be looking at doing the full thing versus some kind of scaled down proposal. One thing that, I'd like to kind of piggyback on what Nate was saying was that, you know, any sort of scaled down proposal, even if it's just the parking lot, and we wait to do the parking lot 3 years, 5 years, whatever, it's going to cost more than $200,000, because prices are doing that, but go up, so that certainly is one consideration. And I think that's probably true for all the project, like anything that we delay is only gonna cost us, more in the future. But I think we really need to know whether or not, you know, the public has, an appetite for this. I guess that's all I have to say, but I have some questions to get around the table.
Amanda?
Yeah, but that's kind of my sentiments as well. It's, you know, all stuff that we're going to, we know we're gonna need to get done soon-ish. And if we get it all done, that's 30 years that we don't have to worry about stuff, especially the parking lot being safe. And the bleachers, you know, I've been in those bleachers, they could use some love. And, you know, having locker rooms for all of the teams, you know, appropriate locker rooms, a female locker room, you know, I think that that's really important. And, you know, the miscellaneous stuff, it's not that much more on top of that to get that done. And it's all stuff that we're gonna wanna get done eventually. So instead of going back and asking for more money on it later on, we should just get it all done, is my thoughts.
Good, thank you. Stage table, Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to come into a controversial subject, your very first agenda. So what's on your mind?
Just curious if, would be Nate could describe like the mechanism, how we pay the bond back, roughly, like with the full package, roughly, what's the, how many years, roughly what the tax the citizen pays over that, you know, how that affects people's taxes, or I don't know if that's a property tax issue, like a millage?
Yeah,
That's what I
so,
thought.
yeah, I could describe that. I'll let Andy describe the potential payback on an average bill, and once he introduces himself,
Okay.
because he's more, apt to being able to give you better
Sure.
information than I can. Because we gotta find out what that scope is, but we're pretending right now, we're doing the whole thing, so that's roughly about 1.2, right?
1.1 is what we're at.
1.1 million right now. So, we can't do a normal millage like, we've talked about because we're capped out on that. And that's just by state law, doesn't mean it's financially, tied to anything, but that's a state law. So we're going for a bond proposal, which is very similar, but people still vote on it, and they're just voting to, do a project of some sort that the city's requesting. And then monies will be raised from that, and then the project will be facilitated, and then the taxpayers do pay it back through their property taxes, so based on their value. So Andy will be better at to describing that shortly. So we'll come back, Andy, if you're still on the phone with us, you can write that down so you can answer that question shortly, okay? Okay, good, you're still there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
thank you.
very good, yep.
Sure. Tracy, what you got?
Amanda said it perfectly, it needs to be done, might as well just get it all done, costs are gonna go up. And the parking lot is horrible. And this winter, who knows what's gonna happen?
Dave?
Myself, I was leaning toward the à la carte idea, because in winter, we all know that right on the roads, all of a sudden, for 6 months of the year, you got smooth roads, all the potholes are filled in. But in reality, but yeah, it needs some TLC, and it does make sense we have the availability now to get this all done in one lump sum. Instead of like, okay, we can do this year, then all of a sudden 3, 4, 5 years go by, and all of a sudden, oh geez, now we gotta do this. So, are we have the same opportunity as we have now to get another bond to work on, the dehumidifier or whatever whatever we go next? I don't know. Cause like you say, costs go up, it is inevitable. So, the idea of doing it all for one, yeah, it's kind of makes you gulp a little bit, but I also gotta realize that, yes, it's pretty much, we look at it as an ice arena, but with the improvements being done, there's nothing saying that other events can't take place in it during the off-season months. So it's just kind of my take on it.
Kevin?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much what everybody else has said. I think it's better to take care of it now rather than try to do it piecemeal.
Very good. I think the toughest question that we have to ask, if we do approve this bond, go out for this bond, we as a council cannot necessarily say, hey, voters in the city of Negaunee, vote yes or no on this, right? This becomes part of the Iron Range Hockey Association and the High School Hockey Association, and to push this on the public. We look at the citizens of Negaunee, right? The senior citizens of Negaunee who were never invested in the ice arena. The children didn't play hockey or figure skated. The couple with children out of the house that are in their 70s. Are they willing to vote yes on this? So I think to me, that's my biggest question is are we going through this and, for lack of better terms, wasting our time, right? Is this what is our best option to afford the people of the city of Negaunee this ice arena for years to come? And how do we, without telling the citizens this is necessary, because if this bond does not pass, the ice arena does not exist, right? In essence, we don't have the general fund to rehabilitate the ice arena. So how do we best make this decision so this bond is well received and every citizen is willing to put their name on, yes, you can take more money out of my pocket every year for something that I don't utilize, or my family doesn't utilize, or, for some that have never even stepped inside, right? And I think that's our biggest question, is how do we analyze that? How do we understand the people of the city of Negaunee, where they're going to go on this vote, as far as knowing that for the next 30 years, we'll be paying, is it 20 years?
It'll be 20 years, Mr.
20
Mayor.
years, so.
I think you are hitting the nail on the head a bit. It's gonna be difficult to analyze that. We'll never be able to analyze that properly. We have done 2 millages since I've been here, and each of those millages, one for equipment, one for streets, very important items, have passed the public's vote. I believe it was like 73% for one and 74% for the other. So in some cases, you wonder, how does nobody vote for equipment or streets to be repaired? Why don't we have 100%? There's some people out there that just don't wanna pay more, or don't believe we're doing a good job, or they have their own reasons, right? And it can be the same circumstance with this situation. And I equate it to the sports facility that just got built by the school. Granted, they have a bigger footprint, it's not just the city of Negaunee that gets voted on that, but I believe that had overwhelming support too. I have trust in the people of Negaunee to know that, they see that there's worth in this ice arena and this facility for the community. I believe that the user groups will go out and do what they can to help promote this. And we'll do what we need to do on our end to provide the legal information that we can to the voters so they can make a good judgment for themselves. And this is gonna have to be, excuse me, this is gonna have to be something the voters decide, and ultimately, whatever happens, any way you cut the loaf of bread per se, the taxpayers are paying for it. There isn't a magic pot of money anywhere coming from any place. Grants are taxpayer monies, taxes from your property taxes are monies as well. That comes in from taxpayers. On occasion, you can potentially get a grant from a foundation, which is not taxpayer money. But those are hard to come by sometimes, and, you know, there are opportunities for that. One thing I wanted to touch into, Mr. Mayor, before we see if there's any more questions from the group here, I think there's a few out there. We will still attempt to get some grants. This only sets a ceiling on what we can borrow, and Andy will get into that in a moment. Doesn't mean because we are authorized by the people in Negaunee to go borrow $1.1 million that we have to go borrow $1.1 million. We probably will in this circumstance if it gets approved because of the way the grants fall on the timeline. So one grant that we're trying to get is a $100,000 grant from the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development, also known as MDARD. That, generally speaking, is a fairly easy grant to get. We've gotten grants for that grant several times, and we've never been denied. So we are going to attempt to get that one. That's only $100,000, right? So the other one we're looking at getting is the DNR grant that we talked about, and Amanda brought up before at the last meeting. And we're gonna attempt to get that, but that grant's due in April of this coming year, and we don't find out about the award until December. So there's some timing things we gotta do. So any grant we get reduces the amount of money we actually have to spend. So you think about it this way, I'll have to go borrow the $1.1 million, it'll be in the bank account. I get 2 grants, I just don't spend $600,000. So that money will get to be paid back to the borrower quicker, but there are some caveats to that, and Andy can get into that a little bit shortly. But that's the whole goal, and if we're able to reduce that burden on the taxpayers because of those grants, then we won't have to throw that to the property taxes at the higher level. Again, this is proposed about $500,000 at this time, than we would if we had to spend the whole enchilada, as John says. So, there's that aspect of it. And also, I wanna touch base on what you said, Mr. Mayor, concerning the facility. If the facility, does not get the proper attention it needs soon, we have 2 major items happening right now. The first, the control board, which controls all of the chilling units, is, you're not gonna find another one, let's just say that. And that goes, boom, we're done. Bottom line. You might find one somewhere maybe, but we've been told that these are not something you can find. The other thing is the condensers, the chilling units, those are becoming very difficult to find. We've already had to find used ones, refurbished ones, not new ones. So if those go, boom, we're probably down. So if this keeps getting punted down, I'm not gonna guarantee anything, but I'm pretty much sure we're gonna be seeing no season in the near future if we don't take care of the issue. If we then have that happen, and have no ice arena and no recourse to find any additional funding to make the necessary repairs to keep the ice arena going, then we're stuck. And then the question is from some people, and I've heard this out in the public, well, then what do we do to the building? And someone said that there's an idea of using it for the DPW garage. Unfortunately, that's not a possibility. Why is that? Because that property is encumbered. And just to remind everybody what encumbrance means, is we built that facility on that land with a grant from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources 40 years ago roughly. And we signed an agreement with the DNR and said, we will take your money gladly, but in return, this land forever has to be used for recreational purposes only, and you won't be able to use it for anything else. So what happens if we just sit here and go, oh, we don't care, DNR, we're gonna do what we wanna do, we're the city of Negaunee. Couple things could happen. One, they could say, give us that money back from 40 years ago. That's probably not gonna happen. I mean, we've had the useful life out of it. The most likely thing that's gonna happen is, when we ever ask for another grant from the DNR, we're gonna be put on the naughty list. And it's to say, those guys don't do what they say they're gonna do. They reneged on it. And so we gave them a bunch of money to have an ice arena, and now we have a garage. That's not what their mandate is, and that's not what we agreed to do 40 years ago. So that's just gonna be a building that sits there empty and not used. And that'd be a real big thing for the community. So, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to bring those two things to the forefront to help you understand what direction we're going, if we're permitted to, and if the people of Negaunee graciously say, yes, fix the ice arena, we trust that you'll get it done, so. I think there might be some other questions.
John has a couple.
Just a couple, I mean, one, do we have a sense of how many ADA spots are required for that facility?
Be based on the parking calculation, my guess is there would be 4.
Yeah. And, the crush and reshape was the only kind of alternative, at $100,000, is that just the 30K, or is that
That's-
also buffing out the?
That would
The other
focus on,
30,000.
that would focus on the asphalt portion of the parking lot.
So
All of
whatever's-
those options are just the asphalt portion of the parking lot.
So whatever's gravel just stays
Stays
the way
gravel,
it is?
correct.
Yeah, see, that's not a very good use of that. Okay.
My question is what, you may have said this at the last meeting, but what is the timeline, to get all of this done before next season?
Our intention, assuming that we get approval to proceed from the city council here tonight, would be to start the design process on both the chiller and dehumidification units. Also, evaluating the potential locker room renovations so that we could do everything in the summer of '26, assuming that the initiative passes in May.
Just to add on a little bit more to clarify, so our goal is to get the dehumidifier and chiller in first, that's the primary goal. We have up to 3 years to spend the proceeds, so if we're able to do it all in 1 year and it makes sense, so we can get all our ducks in a row and all the construction people are gonna be there, and we're not gonna get hosed on prices and stuff, because typically now is when you start putting out bids for construction season, so you can get the best price value. Cause you see what happens is construction firms say, I gotta make $10 million this year, they get their $10 million worth of work, and then everybody else is paying more money on top of that, cause it's extra frosting on the cake, right? So what we're hoping to do is get those 2 units installed. If we could do the parking lot at the same time, great. If we could do the locker rooms, great. If not, we still have 2 years to get those things completed.
But when we get our proposals out, everything, excuse me, those prices would be locked in, even if it's not done for 2 years?
It depends on how you write the RFP, and typically the understanding is if you're going to write the RFP and we say that we could exercise, you're starting here, or you might exercise a different date, they take into account for those type of things, and there could be some considerations.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of go down the miscellaneous rabbit hole for a second here, all right?
Sure.
That's been Matt or Nate, I don't know if you answer this one better. Okay, we're talking about the kitchen area. Now, it's, how much work would have to be done in the kitchen area so you could be suitable for other activities to go on, and what would have to be done for it to be recognized by the health department or whatever, that this is a recognized kitchen, if you make something in here, you're good, other than just giving out peanut M&Ms,
Yeah, we talked about the different capabilities of the kitchen when we did a walkthrough. We've done a handful of walkthroughs to that site now. And one of the things that jumped out at us the most is it's a small room and it's got 3 doors into it. And so one of the primary ideas was to fill in one of the doorways and expand the workspace so people had more room to do prep work and to put stuff out, and to add additional coolers or refrigerators. It doesn't sound like a lot of stuff is currently getting cooked in there, nor is there really a desire to increase necessarily the capabilities, but the capacity. And so the focus would be on trying to make it more user-friendly, allow for additional storage, and remove one of the 3 doors to allow for more counter space.
And and that was feedback from the user groups in our walkthrough. Putting in a kitchen that's, let's just say, for example, you, put in a flat grill, you put in a fryer, or I'm just spitballing here, that's gonna be astronomical. You have to have an Ansel system in there, which helps, put out fires. There's some other code issues that would have to go in there, so you're probably looking at, if I were guessing, and I'm only guessing based on projects that I've currently worked on with downtown businesses, it could be $100,000 or more just to put in the kitchen facility, and you're probably talking more like $200,000. So it's, the question is like, then how do you facilitate that? Who's running the equipment? Are there miners running fryers? We can't have that happening. Are they got a grill? We can't have that happening. Are they using knives? You can't have that happening. So there's a lot of like liability that falls in that as well. And plus the space is super small, so. Yeah.
Another good example is they have a stove in there currently, and it's never been on. They just use it to like try to keep stuff warm, and that's about it. So there's just opportunities there, like maybe removing and replacing that with something more appropriate for how it's currently being utilized.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Matt, forgive my ignorance on this, but can you, what, I mean, if your intent would be to, you know, assuming we say yes, let's move ahead, if your intent is to start on not design and engineering, you know, basically immediately, obviously then we're on the hook for, your services. Well, I'm not familiar with your contract with the city and
Yeah,
how that's
so
structured and what we would be.
both Nate and Mark would be reviewing the scope of services. The percent cost of construction would vary based on what that scope of work would be. Obviously, something as simple as removing and replacing fixtures would be closer to like the 2% range, depending on the amount of construction administration.
Yeah.
Something more complicated, like totally reconfiguring and redesigning the lock rooms, might be closer to 6%, and something like chiller and dehumidification design would be closer to like 4%. And all of those would be subject to the review and approval of Nate and by Mark.
Sure, I just wanna know sort of how far down the rabbit hole do we go before
Oh, sure.
we know whether or not we have the support of the voters, right?
Yeah,
So like, we're gonna be on the hook
4%.
for the rate study.
Yeah.
That's $7,500, not a ton in the scope of this project, right?
I'll answer that.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Becker. The hope is if you give us direction to move forward and we can start doing this work's already gonna have to be done if we agree we wanna do this work, whether the voters support it or not. At least we'll have that in our back pocket to move forward at another date if we're able to secure funding in another way, or in the same way, for instance. The plan is, he will start designing simultaneously while bond counsel, financial advisors are doing their work to present to the council next month. And we hope to put everything out to bid potentially sometime, I would say, late February or mid-March maybe that might be a little advantageous, but that's the hope. Now, we get those bids in. That does not mean we need to award those bids. We can hold those in pocket saying we're not planning on awarding these until at least May or June. We have to decide if we wanna wait for the election to be certified or not, right? Because if it's close, then people can do this or that, all that type of stuff. We all know about elections. Then we can go forward with approving or awarding those bids if the people say yes at one of the council meetings. So that's kind of typically how we'll go. We will have to spend some money up front, yes, but the good thing is Matt's proceeds, bond council's proceeds, and the financial advisors' proceeds all can be wrapped into the project as well as an eligible expense. So we
As
might
long
have
as
to adjust that a bit, so.
Yeah.
Yep,
As long as the project moves forward.
if the project moves forward, yep,
Understood.
yep. If not, we're on the hook for his engineering services, yeah.
Well, at least until we say, hey, it's not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
move forward, right? But if he's gonna start with chiller and dehumidifier, and that's 700,000 and it's 4%, you know, we're $30,000, $7,000 on the bond count, on the
Yep.
the financial study. I just wanna know, so we're
Yep.
$40,000 into this.
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable with that, I just wanna know the numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, any further questions?
One quick question, just looking at like maintenance cycles of the building, do we know how old the roof is on the ice rink? Like, is there anything we haven't like covered, like for the foreseeable future, that would need to be considered too to keep it going long term?
Yeah, so we have reviewed everything that has concerns with the roof. The whole building's 39 years old,
Yeah.
so, or getting older, right?
Yeah.
So the roof is fine. We had thought we had to put, maybe you could touch base on the concept of the insulation at first. I think that's kind of went out the window because of the dehumidifier.
Yeah, we talked about the idea, it's kind of like dehumidification or insulation, and dehumidification creates a much more stable environment for the integrity of the ice while also solving the issue of the condensation. So that was why we decided to forego the insulation and do the dehumidification route. And yeah, we reviewed the roof, and the roof has appeared to be in good shape. There's no leaks that we're aware of, and so at this point in time, it is not on our capital improvements list.
Yeah, it's basically like a big barn, basically, yeah, that stuff lasts pretty good, yeah.
All right, Nate, I have a question here. So on the last page of this, Newmark Canfield, I guess it does say approximate amount, but it does claim 1.25 million, not 1.1 million. So
Yeah, that's what
just-
we were originally talking about.
Okay, okay, so we are at 1.1 million.
Right now, the
That's
estimate's at
inclusive
1.1.
of fees.
And I think that 1 point, it needs to be 1.1 plus bond fees and that
Yeah,
sort
we'll
of
have
thing.
to adjust
Right,
that.
and I think that's where John was going.
Yeah,
with
we'll
that-
work out
that
the
conversation.
details on the full ask of the money. That's for upfront costs, there's $7,000 for financial advice, Matt's costs, because he'll be doing actual work. One thing before Andy talks here, Mr. Mayor and Council, if the bond proposal does not pass, then the financial advisor's fee, not the financial analysis of the facility, that's a separate tool. And the bond council's fee, from my understanding, would not apply, and they would waive that because it didn't get through. But I'll let Andy talk about that some more. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if there's any other questions from council?
Any further questions? No. So do we want to speak with?
It's your pleasure, if you want to give me direction on what you want us to focus on as a council. Right now, there's a motion on the table. It could be amended if you don't want to do the additional parking space, right, the other 30,000 square feet, and pare it down to only the current parking space, we could do that. You could a la carte it more if you want to, but I think there's a motion on the table right now.
Okay. So we are right now voting to approve the
Whole project.
full project.
I'm sorry. The other questions would be for the people that are on the phone there, are they still there?
They are, yes.
So the other questions, and there were questions that people had about, the average cost for a, homeowner
Okay,
and et cetera, and those sorts of things.
So Mr. Mayor, do you want to hear from these people
I
first before you?
believe as far as council is concerned, we'd like to hear
Okay.
all incumbents.
All right. Okay, so Andy, are you still there?
Yep.
All right, very good. We're gonna have you introduce yourself, explain your firm and what the services that you would be providing for the city of Negaunee concerning this. And then if you don't mind touching base, if we don't have anybody from Miller Canfield on what their role in this whole situation would be as well.
Ron is on now.
Oh, very good. So Ron is with us, so he'll be able to answer questions. So we'll have him speak for himself after Andy's done answering any questions he has on his end. All right, Andy, the floor is yours.
Yep, Andy Campbell, I'm a CPA, registered municipal advisor, with that testing company. Worked with the city for a number of years now on bond issuance, with a previous firm, and then I transferred firms in 2024, but doing the same type of work as before. What we do is, like, we're an independent financial advisor, so we help, as we did with the previous bond issues, help the city find the best source of funds for the project if it goes forward. So if you get a yes vote in May, we help with the bond issuance process and help you find the cheapest money to keep the taxes as low as possible. There's also a secondary scope that we're looking at of doing a potential rate study for the ice arena. That fee would, I mean, if the rate study goes forward, that fee would be incurred. I heard Nate kind of talking about like the fee, the bond issuance fee of our portion of our fee would not be incurred if you do not get a yes vote, because we would not close and do the bond issue. So our fee is broken up into those two phases to give the city a couple options there, and making sure that you want to do both phases first, but then obviously the bond issuance process doesn't move forward unless you get a yes vote for the project. I did submit, Nate, do they have like the millage analysis or any
No, we
been
don't,
submitted, or?
no, we don't have that.
Okay, so, we did send the city a couple documents, and I'm sure, Nate can provide them after the meeting here, but we ran like an estimated millage analysis for the project to kind of show what a maximum project could look like for 0.5 mils. So if the city was gonna target voting, 0.5 mils over 20 years, so approximately 0.5 mils on average for 20 years, on the taxes, the, maximum project size was 1.25 million all in. That's project, that's fees, that's bond costs, contingency, everything. The maximum project size was 1.25 million. How that impacts actual homeowners is very different and can be very complicated based on the taxable value of each home. Generally speaking, the market value of a home is twice as much as the state equalized value. So if your market value is 150,000, your state equalized value should be 75,000, and your taxable value is going to be that or less. The taxable value is based on a number of factors that are very complicated at times, but if the taxable value matches the state equalized value of 75,000, and you vote something that is 0.5 mils, the average taxes paid for that homeowner would be $37.39 per year. The millage is based strictly on taxable value. So if your taxable value is higher, the taxes paid would be higher, and vice versa. For instance, if your taxable value of your home was 100,000, which is a rough market value, it's not necessarily correlated depending on some situations, but the market value would technically be 200,000, and the average taxes paid would be about $50. So that hopefully gives you a look into how this could potentially impact all the taxpayers. I will say just a couple indirect things I heard. There was discussion about like why people may or may not vote yes and what you have to be careful about. You guys are on the right track with, you do have to be very careful as a council doing marketing materials or anything saying that you should vote yes on something. It has to be purely factual, it has to be purely like this is what we're trying to do, this is the cost, this is the millage, and it's up to you to vote yes or no. You have to be very factual when it comes to votes. You can talk about economic impact of the ice arena. You can talk about the indirect benefits of having the ice arena. If maybe people come into town from outside of Negaunee and are using restaurants and bars and grocery places, and that's helping keep those businesses supported. You can talk about that, but you have to be just factual on the project and what you're going to do with the money and how much it can potentially cost with the village. Happy to answer any other questions that I missed as well here.
Any questions, council?
Andy, it doesn't sound like there's any questions, but we'll have you stay on first, please. And we have Ron from
Yep.
Canfield, right?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We're gonna have you do the same thing, Ron, if you heard Andy's thing, so.
Very good. Yep. So good evening. My name is Ron Lipscomb. I'm a partner at Miller Canfield. I'll be working with my partner, Tom Colas, who has represented the city for a number of years, along with Andy. So, similar to what Andy does on the financial side, we handle the legal aspects of the bond authorization process. For an unlimited tax would also prepare that for you. We prepare all the legal documents necessary for the authorization and closing, and we assist with the preparation of the marketing materials in terms of an official statement that goes out to investors that describes the project, that describes the city, and enables them to make an informed investment decision as to whether or not to purchase the bonds. We would then, based on the advice of Andy, kind of the process would be you would either do a competitive or a negotiated sale, that's based on a variety of factors, but basically you would do the authorization, you would secure a rating, Andy drives that process, and then we would do the marketing of the bonds and do the sale, after which we would prepare the closing documents. So we, as bond counsel, handle all of that on your behalf. One of the primary functions that we do is we issue what's called an unqualified approving opinion that basically tells the purchasers of the bonds that these are lawfully issued and validly authorized obligations of the city. We describe what the sources of payment are. In this case, it would be an unlimited tax millage, which is what Andy was referring to in terms of a half a mil. We would prepare that and issue that opinion in connection with the issuance of the bond to give investors, comfort that these are legal and valid binding obligations. So that's kind of a very high level of what we do. Again, we're happy to answer any questions. I would just note, and just to piggyback off what Andy and everyone has already mentioned in terms of, being able to inform voters of, the project vis-a-vis the election. So the Michigan election law prohibits public entities from spending any public money on advocacy on election issues. So you can provide education, but you cannot provide advocacy. So that is, what Andy was referring to in terms of providing factual information to the voters in terms of, how much you're asking for, the scope of the project, the impact on their tax bills, things like that. But you need to, again, you need to be careful in terms of what you do provide. We can assist with that in terms of reviewing materials that you are interested in doing, providing to the public. But yeah, the primary bright line is, education, information versus advocacy. So I'll stop there, and if there are any questions, we'd be happy to, provide you further information.
Any questions from the council for Ron? Seeing none.
So, Mr. Mayor, it's your pleasure how you guys would like to do this. So just to be clear, Andy and Ron are not competing for the same job. I hope everyone understands that. So we need to hire each of those in separate motions. We do have a motion on the floor still on the scope of the project, and that will give us the direction on what you would like myself and staff to do.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the bond motion on the floor for the bond, for the full-fledged scope of bond.
The motion is for the full project.
And I want to clarify, Mr. Mayor, Matt, when we say that full scope that you just provided, that does not include the expansion of the parking lot, correct?
Correct, and it just includes the rehabilitation of the current asphalt.
That's the question at hand. Do you want to include the expansion or only concentrate on the parking lot that's currently there right now? That's what that means.
Yeah, I think we should just focus on what we have there, and a gravel parking lot would be terrible, I think. That would be terrible. I think it should be the full repave, but only that.
And want to
And that's,
clarify
that
that.
is that $200,000.
Yeah, so that would put it at 1.1, not including the fees and stuff, which we'll come back to that later, but you're not focused on the price tag right now, you're focused on the scope, and we'll come back and we'll approve all that stuff a little bit later. So I just want to clarify with Mr. Becker, is your understanding of your motion excluding the expansion of the parking lot?
True.
Okay.
This is just to approve
Just to approve the scope of work, so
Scope
Matt
of
can
work
start
on the
working on it, and these guys can start doing the financial analysis.
Do we have any further discussion before we take this vote? Do we wanna, let's do a roll call vote now?
Councilmember Flowey,
Yes.
Councilmember Kangas,
Yes.
Councilmember Dietz,
Yes.
Councilmember Ganabate,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Plummer,
Yes.
Mayor Elmanin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and then Mr. Mayor will want to, if you guys agree, you want to make a motion to hire Andy's firm, and find the, hired Andy's firm, to conduct, the financial analysis attached to the project, or you can just say
Yeah.
to
Okay, and this would be,
approve the, approve the,
and this would be both, Andy and.
this is only Andy right now,
Only Andy.
this is a separate firm.
I'll make a motion that we contract with Lizinski and Company for their services for the phase one rate study and phase two bond issuance, any proposal.
And Dave? All right. You want to do a discussion on that?
No, I think we've had it.
Let's do that first and then, you want to do, no, all right, with that, I'll take a vote, all in favor, say aye. All opposed?
And then lastly, Miller Canfield provide the bond counsel services as presented in their letter of offer.
And this is Ron now.
This is Ron.
Okay, entertain a motion to utilize Miller Canfield as our bond counsel.
So moved.
Kevin?
I'll support.
All right, and John? All right, any discussion on that, Kevin? No. John? Council? No? All right, with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Anyone? Passes.
Hey, gentlemen, we'll be in touch with you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, with that, moving on, 7.2, City Council Policy and Procedure Ethics Policy. And I'm going to hand this over to our city attorney, something we do annually.
Right, and because this is something we do annually, we're already sat here an hour, listened to lawyers already, I want to keep it short. You've all heard it, except for maybe Mr. Plummer, who's already demonstrated, he gets how this works, but the structure of your government is a city council manager hybrid. It's articulated in your charter. If you haven't read your charter lately, dig it out, take a look through it. Particularly, you guys are Article 4 in your charter. That applies to your legislative powers, your responsibilities on this council. And just real quick, sorry, I lost my other glasses. I don't have my bifocals anymore. But you guys are elected by the citizens. This comes right out of your charter. And you constitute a legislative body, you possess the power to pass ordinances, resolutions, and motions to exercise those powers and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. That's your role here. So just to break that down a little bit more, the city manager is also identified in I think, Article 6 of your city charter, along with your city clerk, your assessor, your treasurer, your engineer, your chief of police, your chief of fire, your city attorney. Nate's role is to administer the policies that you set forth, to run the day-to-day operations. Your job is to not run the day-to-day operations. Your job is to set the agenda for the community and to pass your directives vis-a-vis the motions and the resolutions like you're making tonight. And so sometimes, new members kind of get confused as to what the role is of the varying parties in the the administration of the community. It's all laid out there in your city charter. So again, I reiterate, go back and read it, because a lot of your questions can be answered, to the extent you haven't looked at it lately. And just real quick, your governing documents, they start with the US Constitution. There's some federal applicable laws to the city of Negaunee. But really, the state law, state constitution, and then your city charter, kind of the hierarchy of what applies to us on a day-to-day basis. And then maybe a little bit lower than that are your policies, procedures, your ordinances, and your bylaws with regard to this board. Just real quick, the charter kind of articulates some of the rights and privileges you maintain as city council members, but also some of the responsibilities and the duties that you have to your community. You signed up to do a job, and your job is to make sure that the bills are paid, the money's coming in, and that the health, safety, and the welfare of the community is supported through your policies. The city charter talks about how you run a meeting, but really that's done vis-a-vis your policies and procedures, and state law. And so I just want to highlight a couple things. The Open Meetings Act of the state law, it's Michigan compiled laws 15261. If you haven't read it, that's okay, that's what I'm here for. But we don't want to run afoul of the Open Meetings Act. And the important thing with running afoul of the Open Meetings Act is if you intentionally violate it, you can be held personally responsible. It's a misdemeanor. And so most violations of the Open Meetings Act that we see as attorneys are unintentional. You communicate back and forth, you're not trying to end around the Open Meetings Act, but if you do violate it, you can be held personally responsible. So it's important that you understand that an open meetings violation is when you attempt to figure out votes for things before you come here, and you discuss it for the public. The whole idea is to do this in the public sphere, and when you start to, take the temperature of the room, so to speak, outside of a meeting, so you're deliberating, you're trying to convince each other, well, this is right for the community, or maybe this isn't right for the community, and you start to have those conversations either by text, by email, by phone, in person, you start to run over that line that we don't want to cross. If you got more than two of you in the same room, probably time to go another way or not talk city business. Social gatherings, you bump into somebody at Tinseltown this weekend, that's not a problem. But when you get together and specifically want to talk about city business, that's when you gotta start really paying attention to the Open Meetings Act. You go to the city picnic in the summer, that's an incidental, you're not gonna get in trouble for anything like that. But putting things in text and putting things in email, and having these phone calls when you have more than two members is when you can start to run afoul of it. Another thing that we see a lot is closed session. Michigan law controls when we can go into closed session and when we can't. Generally, as your attorney, we like to do everything out in the public. Good, bad, and ugly, we want the public to see. It keeps you guys, it keeps the city manager, it keeps everybody above board. And again, things that are done in the light generally are done the right way. And so we only go into closed session when we need to. We can go in there to talk about employee discipline issues if the employee requests it, or hiring issues if the potential candidate requests it, collective bargaining, strategies, purchase of real estate. You can consult an attorney for trial strategy or trial settlement. But generally, those are the. Sometimes maybe there's a contract that's you can't disclose what's in it, or state law says you can't talk about it because it involves a minor or something. That would be another exception. But generally, we like to do things in open session. And then just real quick, I think it was towards the beginning of last year, the council passed an ethics ordinance. And so if you haven't read the ethics ordinance, it kind of mirrors Public Act 196. So it's not made out of whole cloth, but the one that you guys adopted as a council applies to you guys. And it applies to you insofar as it kind of lays out guidelines for you to follow, and it clearly articulates those. So if you're curious, should I be doing this or shouldn't I be doing this as a city council member, reference the ethics ordinance that you passed, because it really does tell you in many aspects, what you should and shouldn't be doing. In particular, it talks about conflicts of interest. Conflict of interest is when you have a pecuniary interest or some sort of vested interest in the outcome of something, and you're taking a vote on it. So the vote could affect your interest, whether that be money, whether that be, some other aspect of your life, and you're gonna get some business. I don't know. I haven't thought of any examples, but you gotta think, if I have an interest in the outcome of this vote, I probably should be voting on it. That's for you to bring up as a city council member. It's not for, so much for me or for the mayor to bring it up and say, hey, this may affect your pocketbook, you shouldn't vote on it. You need to have the courage and the forethought to say, this affects me, I shouldn't vote on it. Because that's your obligation. Another obligation in the ethics ordinance is you gotta vote. You got put in this position, you ran for these positions to represent the community here, and if an uncomfortable vote comes before you, it's still your job to vote on it. You can't just say, well, I really don't wanna be on record voting yes or no on that. Your duty is to vote on the issues that come before the council. There's a few other things in the ethics ordinance, confidential information, use of personal property, or city property for personal gain, disclosure of important issues that may come before the council. This is my, I own a piece of the engineering firm that we're considering hiring. That would be something you should disclose. That could be a conflict of interest, or be something that other council members want to know before they vote on something. And generally, you treat each other in the public with integrity, and we don't need to go into that, but you guys try to be on your best behavior both in here and out in the community, because you're held to a higher standard when you sign up for this job. And the last thing I just wanted to touch on is meetings and agendas. If anybody wants an agenda item on the agendas for the meetings, ask the mayor, ask the city manager, say, hey, this is of interest to me, this is of interest to the people who are putting me in office here. But the mayor and the city manager are the ones who set the agenda. And so if you would like something added to it, work with them. And say, for instance, maybe the agenda is very crowded. We've already gone an hour and 40 minutes tonight, and you had something that you wanted to brought up, and the mayor said, yeah, not tonight. Or, the city manager says, yeah, we don't have enough room on the agenda. I would prefer you try to get it onto the next one. And the reason we want that is because we send these agendas out, I shouldn't say we, Ann and her staff get everything out on Friday, and then, or Thursday, and then again on Tuesday. And that's the public's chance to kind of see what's going on. That's the public's opportunity to say, yeah, should I be coming to this meeting or not? Do I care at the outcome of these issues? When you start putting things on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting through a vote, and you can do that's absolutely permissible, but we generally don't like to do it, because then the community comes back and says, why wasn't I told about that? I would have come to the meeting if I would have known that was going to be on the agenda. And so again, it's trying to be forefront with the community and make sure everything is done in the right way and not at the last second. Sometimes it happens, you need to put things on the agenda, but generally speaking, try to work with the mayor and the city manager. You need quorum, 4 people out of 7, you need a majority to have a meeting. And generally, just as a matter of course, direct your conversation to the mayor, to the executive, and so you're not talking across each other. It both helps keep the meeting minutes nice and clean, and helps the mayor run the meeting, but it also ensures that people are focused on the issues and not maybe each other's positions. So I guess that's kind of what I got, and we could certainly go through some more stuff, but again, you've heard it. I don't know if we need to do it. If you got specific questions, find one of us. My partners are also here. We'll chat after the meeting.
Thanks, sir.
You bet.
Council, any questions for your city attorney before we move on? Thank you. Moving on, 7.3, commercial rehabilitation exemption transfer resolutions. And background if you could please.
The CRD program is authorized by Michigan Public Act 210/2005, which was designed to provide tax relief to commercial sites within communities that designate a CRD. Under the Act, property taxes on new construction, rehabilitation, and/or major improvements to eligible sites can be eliminated over a specified period. This will only affect the increase of the tax base, not the base itself. A tax abatement is a temporary reduction or elimination of property taxes on eligible rehabilitation projects. The commercial rehabilitation district freezes the pre-rehabilitated taxable value of the building and exempts new investment from local taxes. 2 CRD transfers are being requested. This will effectively allow for the CRD to be put into the name of a new owner or entity. This will provide the remaining benefits to be given to the new owner or entity. Recommendation in 2 separate motions: approve the CRD tax abatement to Campfire Coffee Roasters, Inc. Approve the CRD tax abatement to 209 Gold Street LLC. Alternative, none.
Right, so I don't know if you wanna give any further background, Nate, but this is essentially, we've approved both of these tax abatements. We've changed owners or transferring to an LLC. Therefore, we are extending the tax abatement to each business, to a new entity,
Yes.
but already existing tax abatements.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor, just a little bit caveat on that, we're not extending the period of time, we're just giving the remainder benefits that are attached to the original CRD that was passed.
It's required by state to the extent you want to do this. Both of these entities are essentially a continuation of the other entities, but one, the accountant suggested to Mr. Arnold's corporation that he form a new one for some tax purpose. So it's the same underlying principle of that LLC, and same with the Campfire Coffee.
All right, well, first I will entertain a motion to approve the CRD abatement for Campfire Coffee. All right, Dave
Support?
and John. All right, any further discussion, Dave?
No, just try to do this to, put a goal on it and get it done.
John?
Nothing to add.
Any further council comment? Seeing none. All right, with that, we'll take a roll call vote, Ann, please.
Councilmember Kangas,
Yes.
Councilmember Dietz,
Yes.
Councilmember Ganavate,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Plummer,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
Yes.
Mayor Elvinet.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, second, I'll entertain a motion to approve the CRD tax abatement to 209 Gold Street LLC.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Tracy, anything?
Second.
And Jeff will support that one. All right, any further conversation? No? Jeff? No? Council? No? With that, we'll take another roll call vote.
Councilmember Dietz,
Yes.
Councilmember Ganavate,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Plummer,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
Yes.
Councilmember Kangas,
Yes.
Mayor Elvinet.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. All right, 7.4, temporary electric utility easement agreement with Hill Property. And, if you would,
The Nagani Electric Department mistakenly installed utility services through a parcel of property that the city did not have legal access to. This action caused the property owner to change their site plan and build directly on top of the current utility. In order to correct this action, the city has sought a temporary electric utility to said property to facilitate legal access. Recommendation: enter into the limited access easement with Mike Hill. Because this is not budgeted, a budget adjustment will need to be done in the amount of $16,960 to be paid out of the electric fund contract services. Alternative, none. Fiscal effects: $16,960 will be charged to the electric department for a one-time charge.
all right, you want some legal background?
Sure.
All right.
So, a mistake was made, and the electric line goes through property that it probably shouldn't have. But the idea in doing this is there's some liability associated with that, if you tear it up and move it around, or, which is gonna be apparently pretty expensive as well. But there's a roundabout that has been talked about going in on that intersection. So I think maybe 3 or 4 years from now, the idea was, well, if it's gonna get redone then anyway, to avoid the liability, associated with the mistake, work with the landowner and get a temporary easement for the line that's currently going through there. In negotiations with him, I think he said, if you, cover the cost of hooking up, my utilities, is that right, Nate? Where did the $16,000 go?
Part of it was with, tie into the water and sewer lines and the lateral systems.
So that's what he wanted in exchange for the easement, was essentially the same cost it was gonna be for him to tie in, to the facilities.
In addition to that, so why did this happen? It was the electric department's understanding that there was an easement already established, and typically, before they start installing things, they do consult, documentation first. In this case, it was not, because there was already existing power lines there. It appears that that was an UPCO easement instead. So we have rectified that issue for the future. The mistake is made, it's already in, the building's on top part of it, so we're in a position where we're just trying to avoid any liability moving forward. And Mr. Hill has been pretty gracious in working with us in this situation, so.
So I guess the question really remains is, do you want to receive a temporary easement for that, for where that line is in exchange for the, what's the amount, 16,600?
960.
Yeah, 960.
And this temporary easement will run until, until something changes with the need for the line.
With that being said, I'll entertain the motion to enter in the limited access easement with Mike Hill.
I'll make this motion so we can discuss it.
Okay. John and Dave. All right, John, what's on your mind?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a conundrum, obviously, and this came through the planning commission, and at that time, we were told that, all of the city departments had vetted the project, and everything was thumbs up to move forward. So I understand accidents happen, and, mistakes can be made. The cost is the cost, really. I guess that it's tied to connecting all of his utilities, and that's how he kind of derived that number. But essentially, we're just paying this
Water.
number for the easement.
Mostly water and sewer, yeah.
Right, so it has nothing to do with the electrical. That is actually the issue at hand.
Yeah, because,
But this is his number
yeah,
for the easement.
yeah.
That's how you arrived at that.
I mean, it really has nothing to do with the water or the sewer.
I'd say that's fair.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
just, this is a number.
That's what we would,
We're
yeah,
paying
that's how we're-
16,000, almost 17,000
For
dollars.
access to the property.
For access to this property,
Yep.
which,
So
Definitely a better
we're
approach.
paying, this isn't just to put in a line, we're actually paying him?
The line is
John,
already.
John,
Sorry.
that is exactly what this is that, the electrical is already installed, it is already underneath the new building that he has constructed. And now we're just paying so that we have a legal easement for that. What's the, should something go wrong with the electrical that is underneath his building, then what happens?
It's in a conduit right now, so if there were some issues with that, that could be pulled out
Just run through.
and done something, something else be put in there. That's not gonna be very typical, but, things could happen. And then when that roundabout does go in there, that would be de-energized, and then we would reroute that on a different access point because of the circumstances surrounded in that whole project and electrical upgrades that have to happen with that project, so.
So we're essentially paying this for just these 2 to 3
It could be,
years?
it could be
3
3 to
years.
5 years, so
3 to
we're,
5
yeah,
years.
it could be to 31 where that even gets put in, it just depends on where the money comes from, if the state still falls through with their stuff, so.
What happens if we don't pay him $16,960 for access to his property?
That's a good question. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is finding out the answer to.
Well, I understand, but a little, sorry for a little bit of give and take here would, not be out of order, right? I mean, we've already gone to great lengths to to, rezone that property for his project. This just seems a little steep.
I think the risk we run in is he has a right to rezone, ask to be rezoned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, I don't think that, I think that's conflating it. You know, we didn't do him a favor by
No.
rezoning it, right? He had a
No.
right to ask, he did the procedures.
Yep.
It was voted on properly, so
Yep.
that's this or that. You know, we made a mistake. Sometimes those mistakes can be costly. I do personally feel if we don't go forward and do what we do here tonight, potentially entering into the agreement, we'll be making a bigger mistake because potentially we could get sued and it would cost more money. And we definitely don't wanna do that.
So everyone else who builds has to pay to get their own utilities hooked up, to get their water and sewer hooked up. I know in my own experience, I got $1 for, you know, half of my land for an easement. So I think it's a little steep to pay almost $17,000 just for access to his land for 3 years. It's ridiculous.
Again, I think where we're at right now is mistakes happen. This is a dollar amount, but like our attorney said, we know the dollar amount. Right, the receipts are here that add up to that dollar amount. And we do not wanna find out what that dollar amount is if this goes into further.
Well, what the potential liability is, if you were to sue, you would be trespass to land type claim. So any damages that you can associate with that, plus the cost of removing the offending property, and maybe the tangential cost would be to rerun it some other way, and then his attorney fees and costs if he were to win on a trespass claim. So that's the exposure you'd be looking at. If we said, you know what, we're just not gonna do this. We'll just let the chips fall where we may, and if he wants to sue us in court, then we'll take our chances. He'll probably not prevail in a trespass claim, given the facts that I've reviewed though. I mean, he'll probably win, and he'll probably, if he hires an attorney, he'll probably receive his attorney fees as part of the cost. Whether your insurance picks that up, that would be for them to decide. Trespass to land is an intentional tort, and sometimes insurance companies don't cover that.
Yes, sir.
So just to keep to, so put in David speak, this is basically for 3 to 5 years, this is us covering our butt. For 3
Well,
to 5 years
covering
because-
about is,
because
Mayor,
I may not have said it very tactfully, but, because if something else more, because we got the paperwork on it, gets, more things go wrong, we're basically covered by this
yes,
price.
to the extent he
Correct.
permits you to do this, it would involve this easement, which allows you to be there, and then all claims that arose out of this occurrence would be waived. So I mean, it's probably the worst of the better of the bad options, for lack of saying it a better way.
Right, absolutely.
You could certainly go back and try to negotiate this further, or you can do nothing, or you can do something today.
Any further comments, questions?
I just wonder if there's anything that we can do prudently to make sure this doesn't happen again.
We have that covered, yeah. Yep.
So we can make a motion to,
Motion's on the
table
floor.
already.
Motion's on the floor.
can we amend the motion to renegotiate the,
If the person
No.
made the motion and the second agrees, yes.
Motion right now is entered in the agreement, pay the amount.
That's, I'm not interested in
Okay,
amending
you're
the
not
motion. So we can vote the motion
With that,
down,
let's-
and then we
let's-
can,
okay.
Yeah.
look at a different motion, or we can,
Thank
but
you,
the
John.
motion exists.
All right, with that, then we'll, Dave?
No,
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, with that, we will take a vote, all in favor, to enter in the limited access easement with Mike Hill, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Yep. All right, moving on, number 8, consent agenda. 8.1, minutes, November 13, 2025, regular minutes. 8.2, claims and accounts. 8.3, revenue expenditure trial balance reports. 8.4, Act 152 resolution. 8.5, set regular meeting dates. 8.6, set city depositories. 8.7, senior center grants. 8.8, boards and commission appointments. 8.9, first impression MSU tourism. 8.10, DPW one-way plow contract increase. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I'll make a motion.
Tracy and Dave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on, number 9, public comment. Again, public comment, if you would like to step up to the podium, state your name, and 3 minutes is yours. Do I see any public comment? Last call on public comment. Seeing none, closing public comment. Number 10, council comment. Jeff, welcome to the council, and I'll give you first.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I still have a lot to learn. Being on the planning commission's been very helpful. But I know I'm deep in paperwork, reading, doing a lot of reading, but I'm excited to be here, and thank you all.
Thanks, Jeff. John, what you got for us tonight?
I'm good tonight.
Thank you. Amanda?
Looking forward to Tinseltown this weekend,
All right.
tree lighting, always fun time.
Yep. Tracy? Nothing. Dave?
Took a ride down Gingerbread Lane on my way home today. I'm excited. So, yeah, Tinseltown obviously this weekend, so looking forward to it. It's, looks like it might be a little chilly, so it's gonna be, it's winter, unlike last year when there's no snow on the ground. It's quite disappointing. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hope you'll come out and support local businesses and have a good time, and also want to welcome Jeff to the council and welcome back John to the council. That's it.
Thank you. Kevin?
I'll second what Dave said, welcome to the council, welcome back. Other than that, no.
All right, thank you. As for myself, nothing, I was just gonna touch on Tinseltown. Dave, I know Dave will be walking the parade, correct? With myself, right? We'll be meeting down here
6:15.
6:15, okay. A lot going on that day. I really, really wish Tinseltown wasn't always during the Army-Navy football game, every single year. But this year I get to go watch my kid play in the band, so I don't get to see any Army-Navy this year. But that's my only gripe, so that's all I have. Mr. City Manager, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, again, the parade will start on Colvin, so if you want to be in the parade, we can get you a ride if you'd like to, like we've done before, just let me know. Just show up, and have fun. There'll be some candy to throw. Let's see, I only got a few quick little things I want to mention. The CRD you guys just approved, those 2 transfers, that program is actually sunsetted with the state. So they're in the process right now of renewing that entire program for us to use and other people to use. And LSCP went down over last week, I believe, and they testified in front of the Senate using our community as the example. CRD is working well, and that passed the Senate. And hopefully it's gonna go on to the House to get passed there. So Negani's being represented at the table at the state level still, so I wanted to mention that. And the last thing here, I had to read my own note, what I wrote here. Don't forget, the firefighters are having their annual dinner. If you can show up just to say hi. They have a nice dinner at the fire hall at, I think, 7 o'clock or 7:30. So if you're downtown, you guys must have gotten invitations, I believe. Feel free to pop up there. If you can't make it, that's okay too. But just a reminder.
Social hour starts at 5:30.
Yeah, social hours at 5:30. Don't get too social.
What day is that?
That's on Tinseltown Day, so
Oh.
Saturday. Yeah. That's all I have.
That's all I have. Mr. City Attorney?
Heard enough?
Good afternoon. All right.
Just a reminder that January's meeting is the third. I just wanna remind you.
Yes, yeah, we are pushed back January's meeting, it's in here.
You approved the January,
Yeah, 8:25, so.
but January is the third week, just wanted to remind everybody.
Yeah, we'll get the reminder of the meeting, but again, our approved schedule of meetings was approved tonight, so, it is 8:25 minutes. With that, I will, before I enter, I'm sorry? Before we adjourn, please remember that, let's exit immediately, so we aren't having quorums, against our Open Meetings Act, as per city attorney this week. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Tracy?
Or-
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.